on Osrc News at 7. After 3 years of legal contest, court slams death verdict on killers of Olufunke Olakunri. Ondo State Governor Akeredolu insists on anti-open grazing law regardless of provocation. Nigeria police to deploy over 17,000 personnel to man Ekiti State governorship election. And from the foreign scene, United States returns to trenches over Capitol attack during demonstration.
And welcome on the news. I'm Olatomiwa Donald Falaye. After years of legal fireworks, killers of Mrs. Olufunke Olakunri, daughter of Afenifere leader Paul Ruben Fashoranti, have been sentenced to death by hanging. One of them, Awali Al-Bakr, was however discharged and acquitted. Justice William Olamide of the Ondo State High Court, sitting in Akure, who handed down the verdict today, held that the state prosecution team proved the case of murder against the convicts to satisfaction of the court. Osrc's Richard Lesomi reports that Justice Olamide tasked the federal government to tackle the security challenges in the country.
The killing of Mrs. Olufunke Olakunri, daughter of the Afenifere leader Ruben Fashoranti, on July 12, 2019 sparked national outcry for justice for the deceased. Mrs. Olakunri was murdered along Ore-Shagamu Highway on her way to Lagos, and the tragic loss attracted dignitaries nationwide, including the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who paid condolence visits to her father. Months after, the police arrested some suspects, including the public relations officer, Ondo State chapter of the Miyetti Allah Association of Nigeria, and were arraigned at a Chief Magistrate's Court in Akure on counts of murder, kidnapping, illegal possession of firearms, among others. After the prosecution proved that the defendants had case to answer, the matter was transferred to the High Court, which has jurisdiction to adjudicate on murder and kidnapping. There were arguments and counter-arguments between prosecution and defense counsel before Justice William Olamide of the Ondo State High Court on whether the defendants committed the offenses preferred against them or not. In his consecutive verdict on Friday, on the 9 counts, Justice Olamide held that the prosecution established the 3 elements of murder and conspiracy to commit murder beyond reasonable doubt. The judge said testimonies from prosecution witnesses and the autopsy reports established that Mrs. Olakunri died from excessive blood loss from the gunshots at the scene of the robbery carried out by the convicts were sufficient enough to convict them. He also held that the suspect's shooting was responsible for Mrs. Olakunri's death on July 12, 2019, and held that the prosecution succeeded in convincing the court that the suspects intentionally murdered the woman. The judge also found them guilty of robbery and conspiracy to commit robbery, which goes for 7 years jail terms, as the convicts also bagged life imprisonment for kidnapping, but the judge freed one of them, Awalu Abubakar, on the grounds that the prosecution failed to prove the allegation of aiding and abetting leveled against them. Justice Olamide,
from the ill facts to the great of it, in determining whether perhaps there could be a grant for appeal. That is the audit. So we appreciate the court, we appreciate the counsel on the other side, as led by the AG, the DPP, and other distinguished lawyers there on the side of the state.
Without prejudice to rights of the convicts to appeal, they are to die by hanging, while Awalu Abubakar is now a free man after about 3 years at the Lokuta Correctional Facility. Richard Lesomi, Osrc News.
The judgment of an Ondo State High Court on the 3 culprits for killing late Mrs. Funke Olakunri, daughter of Afenifere leader Paul Ruben Fashoranti, has been described as a demonstration of judicial impartiality. The close in the case, which spans 3 years, according to concerned Nigerians, will further help heal the wound the demise of the 58-year-old caused. Sahid Aribisala reports that Nigerians called on government to improve on the protection of lives and property in the country.
Funke Olakunrin, daughter of Yoruba socio-political group Afenifere leader Pariben Fashion, was killed on July 12, 2019 while in transit around Kajola on the Lagos-Ore highway. Following the arrest of the suspected killers months after the incident, the legal fireworks to ascertain their culpability began. 3 years down the line, an Ondo State High Court sitting in Akure sentenced 3 persons to death by hanging for killing the 58-year-old. Just as the killing attracted a wide range of condemnation from Nigerians, the judgment served on the killers as elicited reactions. Though saddened that the development cannot bring back the departed, it is important to concerned Nigerians who described it as an indication of judicial impartiality.
We are glad that the judgment was right, because it was a terrible tragedy that happened that day, and I'm very glad that Fashionati is going to be more relief now that there is a fair and right judgment for those people that commit that atrocity.
A close associate of Fashionati, Chief Femi Aluko, hopes that the wound caused by the killing will heal.
You are just reminding me again of that sad incident. It's an incident I didn't want to remember again because it's a very gruesome murder. The leader's mind will be at rest in the sense that his mind has not been at rest since then, because to have lost a daughter suddenly like that, it's not a joke. It's a very sorrowful something, or a sorrowful incident. So, perhaps we feel his mind will be at rest as somehow that judgment has been delivered in the right perspective.
Late Mrs. Funke Olakunrin was traveling from Akure to Lagos after visiting her father when she was attacked and murdered in 2019. Sahid Aribisala, Osrc News.
Still in court matters, the Court of Appeal Akure Division has freed one of the teachers of Sotitobere Praise Chapel, Mrs. Grace Ogunjobi, convicted by an Ondo State High Court of conspiracy to steal the missing gold collarly in the church. The appellate court held that the lower court was wrong to have convicted Mrs. Ogunjobi of conspiracy without sufficient evidence. Let's join Osrc's Richard Ilisomi again for more. We'll give you the details during the course of the bulletin. Has insisted that his administration would never compromise the anti-open grazing law, no matter whose ox is gored. Akure received a delegation of the Yoruba socio-cultural group Afenifere over a gun attack in Oro, said the security and welfare of the people will always attract priority. Government House correspondent Wahab Bankole reports that the governor also played host to the leadership of a development agenda for Western Nigeria, Dawn Commission and crew the support for the restructuring of the country.
Governor Oluwarotimi Akere received the leadership of the Yoruba socio-cultural group Afenifere and that of the development agenda for Western Nigeria, Dawn Commission, over the Owo tragedy. Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo consoled the governor, the people of the state, especially victims' families. The Afenifere leader said Governor Akere Dolu is a pride to the Yoruba race, ascribing his courage to the birth of Amotekun Corps.
For the constitution, we didn't make it. It is the military incursion that imposes on us and all the unfavorable conditions. Question of state police, they are just a named governor. The governor who is in charge of life and property without the instrument to demand protection. And you are bold enough to Western Union to establish ourselves.
During their earlier visit to the palace of Olowo and the incident scene, the group donated 1.5 million naira to the church and victims of the attack. Governor Akere Dolu appreciated the visitors for their sympathy and insisted on the anti-open grazing law as part of efforts to protect the lives and property of residents.
They are terrorists, and sir, we have most of us who have been reading the news and co, and I think this incident is the most internationalized incident in Nigeria ever. Today the Pope is talking, tomorrow the House of Commons, they are debating, everybody is talking. I've got calls from everybody and all those things. I got a letter, US Embassy and all those things from everybody is worried. I'm worried myself too. But I felt that if we were at war, it was not possible for us to lose 40 people in a day in a war situation. Because we all be armed, we face each other. But as of today, the death toll, the casualty is 40.
Also, the leadership of the Western Nigeria Development Agenda Dawn Commission had their turn with Governor Akeredolu, where its Director General, Mr. Sheye Oyileye, said the attack defiled the Yoruba land.
It's more or less a violation of our way of life in Yoruba land. We know what you stood for in this region. We say it usually at the office that there are a lot of things that you have championed for the region that if not for you, maybe it would have just been dead, or you wouldn't have seen the light of the day.
Governor Akeredolu, who tagged the strike as act of terrorism, said the perpetrators would not escape justice.
It was meant to impact negatively on our psyche. But they can be sure that they took a wrong target. I'm not perturbed when it comes to that. If we are going to continue to fight, we're going to fight. We'll stand by what we believe.
The governor charged residents of the state to be more security conscious. Wahab Bankole, Osrc News.
Seyi Makinde of Oyo State said he would soon call an expanded Security Council meeting in the state, which would include traditional rulers, to strategize on how to prevent attacks on communities in the state. He made the statement at the inauguration of a new Napo Hall built by the Ibadan Southwest Traditional Rulers Council, led by former Governor Rashidi Ladoja. He explained that it became necessary following the massacre of worshippers by some gunmen at the St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, in Ondo State. Makinde said those who attacked Owo could not have arrived in the town on the day they launched the attack, saying they probably had been in the town to survey and plan how to unleash terror on the innocent people. Still on security, but now to election matters. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, says 17,374 police personnel will be deployed to provide security cover for the June 18 governorship elections in Ekiti State. Baba disclosed that this is apart from personnel from the National Security and Civil Defense Corps and other security agencies. The police boss, who spoke with newsmen at the presidential villa in Abuja, assured of the force's commitment to adequate security before, during and after the elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has set a June 17, 2022 deadline for presidential candidates to name their running mates. It also set a July 15th deadline for state elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, in a statement, said the list of all presidential and governorship candidates must be accompanied by the names of their running mates, without which the nomination is invalid. Yakubu said all nominations must be uploaded to the portal on or before the deadline. Still on election matters, the Alaba National Market in Ojo area of Lagos State has shut down operations to mobilize traders in the market to register or get their permanent voters card to enable them vote in the forthcoming elections in Nigeria. It was gathered that during the exercise, the traders visited Ojo local government area, which is the venue for the registration. The registration was said to be ongoing, where the registrants became frustrated by the availability of a single registration terminal. And On to health, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has said there has been a significant increase in the number of Lassa fever deaths and cases across the country. The center, through its latest situation report on the disease, stated that as of May 2022, no fewer than 155 deaths with 4,820 suspected cases have been reported across 97 local government areas in 24 states of the Federation. Lassa fever, an animal-borne acute viral illness spread by the common African rat, is endemic in Nigeria and some other West African countries. And to education, the Joint Action Committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, Academic Staff Union of Universities and Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics have described the suspension of all union activities in state institutions of higher learning by the Edo State government as a lawless and undemocratic act. It was reported that the state government took the decision following protest by students of Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma, over the lingering strike by ASU and other unions in the institution. Speaking in an interview with newsmen, SANU's national president, Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed, said it was not within the powers of any state government to prescribe the union's activities. You're watching Osrc News at 7. We'll bring you more stories after this break. News at 7. You can watch us live on our website www.osrc.ng or follow us on Facebook Osrc TV Ondo, and on YouTube you can subscribe to our channel Osrc TV Ondo. Moving to other stories, there is a loud drama today at the Oritabele axis of Accra, Ondo State capital, as a woman created a scene that attracted onlookers and business owners in the area. And with allegations that her husband alongside his lover were eloping with her 2 children, the woman took the issue to streets in her efforts to prevent the move. OSRC's Sahid Aribisala reports that for the intervention of operatives of the Nigerian police, the situation could have resulted in a free-for-all.
The Sienna bus had kidnapped her children and made away with her valuables. After a long chase of the vehicle, it ensued into a mild drama at the Olesari junction in the Oritabele axis of Accra, the state capital, which attracted passers-by and business owners. The marital affair gone wrong.
Èyí àkọ́kọ́ ó ti bímọ tẹ̀yìn wá, èyí ìkejì ó ti bímọ tẹ̀yìn wá. So níṣojú tèmi ó wá dàbẹ́ ni pé ọkọ yẹn gan ni ò ní ìyàwó ara ẹ̀ láti àárọ̀ kùtù wá. Ó ní òun lọ ra kan lọ́dọ̀ Pétú. Ó ní máa nìyẹn wá pé òun pé òun àti ọkọ òun jọ ìyàwó òun jọ ń jà ń lé pé òun dẹ̀ fẹ́ kó àwọn ọmọ òun kúrò ńlé. Ó wá ní pé kó wá block òun ní Sabo junction. Ibi tó ti wá wọnú mọ́tò, gbogbo nǹkan tó rà gan wà nú mọ́tò. Ó ní ibi táwọn ti wá ń bọ̀ ni woman yẹn fi ọ̀kadà lé wọn bọ̀ pé wọ́n á dé roadblock pé woman yẹn fẹ́ fà wọn ṣubú pọ̀ man yẹn ṣáà sọ fún un pé kóhun ti àwọn ọlọ́kadà wá bẹ̀ sí pa woman tó jẹ́ ìyàwó lé gangan ó wá bẹ̀ sí pariwo olè àwọn ọlọ́kadà roadblock wọ́n wá block ẹ̀ ní ó jí ọmọ sínú mọ́tò ìgbà tí wọ́n máa sọ̀rọ̀ ó wá ní pé òun ò jọ ọmọ pé ìyàwó ilé òun ni ó ṣàbẹ̀ sí sọ̀rọ̀ pé woman yẹn ò ní lọ woman tó dẹ̀ wà nínú mọ́tò sọ pé ọmọ ìlú òun ni pé brother and sister làwọn méjèèjì.
She alleged that the driver, who is her husband, was eloping with another woman with her own 2 children.
He said, husband, you don't get new wife, oh. You get new wife, let me suffer and finish. I said, when I'm finished, oh, you don't get new wife, oh. He packed my children for house. After when I collect them finished, okay, I was about to finish. After when I collect them finished for house, for the motor.
The matter, however, sparked reactions from onlookers who expressed the need for couples to seek peaceful means of resolving differences.
But I said to ẹ̀nà ló fa wàhálà ilé.
Tírú wàhálà báyìí bá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nínú ìdílé, ilé yẹn ò tí ì ní ètò ò sí nínú ìdílé yẹn rárá. Tètò bá wà nínú ìdílé yẹn, síbẹ̀síbẹ̀ kò yẹ kí ìjà ni kó bọ́ síta.
Also raised was the need for residents to exercise patience in order to avoid jungled justice while acting on false information.
I think we are not here. They could have killed one another. When the policeman can say we should be going. He did not know. He didn't know the cause of the problem. Kò sí anybody kò mọ̀ ìjà kò kọ̀ sí ìjà láàrin wọn. Ìgbà àárín ọkọ àti ìyàwó lọ̀rọ̀ ẹ ti ṣẹlẹ̀.
It took the intervention of operatives of the Nigeria Police Force to douse the tension and subsequently convey them to the anti-cultism unit along the Akure-Ilesha Expressway. Sahira Ibisala, Osrc News.
We'll take the statutory story again. The Court of Appeal, Akure Division, has freed one of the teachers of statutory present chapel, Mrs. Grace Ogunjobi, convicted by Ondo State High Court of conspiracy to steal the missing gold collar in the church. The appellate court held that the lower court was wrong to have convicted Mrs. Ogunjobi of conspiracy without sufficient evidence. Let's join Osrc's Richard Elesomi for more.
The appellant, Mrs. Grace Ogunjobi, was among 6 other church members arrested with the founder of Sotitobere Prison Chapel, Akure, Prophet Alpha Babatunde, about the disappearance of the 1-year-old gold collar in the church in November 2019. She was found guilty of conspiring, aiding and abetting the disappearance of the boy by Justice Odushola of the Ondo State High Court sitting in Akure and was slammed with imprisonment. In his judgment today, the appellate court held that there was no evidence to prove allegation of aiding and abetting and conspiracy leveled against the appellant, adding that the lower court was wrong to have convicted her. The court also held that the circumstantial evidence which the lower court relied on was more of sentiment and emotion, which could not hold water in finding the appellant guilty, and therefore discharged and acquitted the appellant of the offense preferred against her. Our counsel, Akinyemi Omowari, and the Director of Public Prosecution, Leo Ologun, spoke after the ruling.
Fortunately for her, the Court of Appeal just set aside her conviction and discharged and acquitted her of any wrongdoing. That is the position of the court as of today. The administrative procedure will write, then the order will be rolled out, the judgment will be rolled out, taken to the prison or the correctional facility to get her out. In less than 1 week, she will be free.
We relied on circumstantial evidence, and the court is of the view that our circumstantial evidence is not compelling, it's not cogent. That where one is relying on circumstantial evidence, it must be so compelling, so cogent, and irresistibly pointing to the person as the offender. And that in our own case, it's not like that.
Barring any contestation of the judgments, the appellant is expected to be freed after perfection of necessary paperwork. From Court of Appeal, Akure, Richard Elesomi, Osrc News.
Ondo State Governor Olawatimi Akeredolu says he was not convinced that the sudden desecration of the Temple of God in Oyo was hatched and executed by the Islamic State's West Africa province. Akeredolu expressed his reservation about the pronouncement of the National Security Council on the Oyo human tragedy during a virtual interaction with Suez-based Christian body, that the conclusion of the council was too hasty to hold water. He pointed that the onslaught on the peace-loving people of the state was a crime against humanity, but assured whoever cared to listen that the government and the people of the state would not be intimidated to submission. The governor renewed his call to the security agencies to go overboard in smoking out the blood-sucking elements from the hideout for appropriate legal action. President Muhammadu Buhari will address the nation via a live broadcast at 7 a.m. on Sunday. Minister of Information Lai Mohammed said the broadcast will be centered on the celebration of Democracy Day on June 12, 2022. The minister listed some of the activities lined up for the democracy celebrations, assuring that all events will be held and there will be no security breaches. And to the foreign scene, an attempted coup and a brazen attempt to overthrow the government's strong word to describe last year's Capitol riot at the start of the U.S. congressional hearing into the incident. The committee is also investigating Donald Trump's continuing denials that he lost the 2022 presidential election. Donald Busi has the rest of the story.
This is what police saw on January 6, 2021, when they were overwhelmed by a mob trying to overthrow President Donald Trump's election defeat. Capitol Police Officer Kelvin Hedward was the first of many officers to be injured.
There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
While riders vandalized the Capitol and threatened to kill members of Congress, Trump was watching it all on TV from the White House. According to committee investigators, Trump ignored pleas from advisors and members of Congress to call off the riders.
Aware of the rioters' chance to hang Mike Pence, the president responded with this sentiment, quote, "Maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it."
Investigators also argued that the Trump's tweet in December was another log on the wheel, showing video tips of riders confirming the motives.
He personally asked for us to come to D.C. that day. And I thought, for everything he's done for us, if this is the only thing he's going to ask from me, I'll do it.
All of us here today. Then there was the ongoing effort led by Trump to claim the election had been stolen. The committee showed video of the then Attorney General William Barr testifying that the claim was in fact a lie.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit. And I didn't want to be a part of it.
Investigators say Trump didn't listen, but his daughter, Ivanka, told them she did.
I respect Attorney General Barr, so I accepted what he was saying.
According to committee chairman, the riots and the effort to overthrow the election was nothing short of a coup attempt at first in American history.
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup. A brazen attempt, as one rioter put it shortly after January 6th, to overthrow the government.
Republican leader and Congress remain the former president's defender.
In fact, it is the most political and least legitimate committee in American history.
Oladoyin Ayebusi, Osrc News.
In the news tonight, another look at some highlight stories. After months of legal flexing, Ondo State High Court has sentenced 3 killers of Olufunke Olakunri to death by hanging. Justice William Olamide said he was convinced before reasonable doubt that the convicted were guilty. And that ends the news tonight. Thanks for watching. Good evening.